Okay, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing 7 lessons that I learned after buying my first company at 25. If you don't know who I am, my name is Josh Lee. I launched my healthcare company by buying a clinic, no money down, and this made me the youngest acquirer in healthcare in Australia. As always, let's keep it simple. Let's dive right in. Alright. So the first 2 points are very important, are probably the most important skills that you need when it comes to deal making, when it comes to executing my model of acquiring companies without investing your personal capital. But all the points are fucking important, so make sure you have a pen and paper in front of you. Let's go. So communication, that's the first thing. Communication is more than you realize. So when you're executing my model, you as the founder, you're actually the link between the board, the team, and the whole mission, right? So from your board all the way through to the companies that you acquire, you're the link between all of them. As I say, culture stems from the top, right? So whatever you say, whatever your values are, however you see business, how you see the company, it all stems from you. So the most important thing to drive a company is you as the founder, and that is why communication is number one, why I put it as number one, and it's actually more than you realize. So it's more than how you speak, how you dress. It actually stems to the emails, the messaging. It's the things that you don't say. And it's also, communication is a two-way street, right? So it's the shit that you're saying is the shit that you're conveying, but it's also the information and the messages and the things that other people are saying. And one thing that I've learned is you've really got to pay attention to the things that people aren't saying. That's where the fucking gold lies, right? Because everyone wants to please the boss. So you, as the founder, you're going to be the boss. And when you ask people for feedback, for things, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. But you have to actually get really good at going under, dissecting the layers of the onion, right? Going down deep into the layers and finding out what people really mean. So beyond, your job aligning information, priorities, and people, you're beyond the technical job, you actually have to get really good at the softer, the emotional side, the unspoken side of communication. So pay attention to silence and the subtext. That's where you're going to find the real issues. And when you find the real issues, that's where the gaps are. Right? So that's where you attack. So a lot of people like to just focus on the strengths, which I believe in, right? You have to focus on what you're good at, focus on the parts that are doing really well. But when you can identify the gaps in the communication, right? Where is information leaking through? Where is information not getting through to where it's intended? When you can attack those gaps and build a seamless flow of information, that's when your organization is going to have clarity, understanding, and that's when people are going to be able to execute on what you want, right? So when a lot of business owners are saying, fuck, like people aren't listening to me, people aren't doing what I'm saying, I always look for the gaps in their communication, right? So from the founder, from the board, through to the founder, through to the wider team. Where are the gaps in communication? Why aren't people doing what you want them to do? You got to find the gaps, and then you got to attack them. Right, so that's first thing. Communication is more than you realize. Second thing, leadership. Right, these are the 2 most important things when it comes to deal making. Leadership. The reason why leadership is the most important is because it's all about getting results. Right? It's not about being liked. It's about being respected. Right? It's not about validation as a person. It's about getting results. That's number 1. People are going to be tired, emotional, distracted. People are people. Humans are human. People are emotional. People have things going on in their life. But it's your job as a leader to align people's vision, to align people's mission to your vision, right? Your role is to hold the line. Yeah? So you're not necessarily looking for people to like you. You're not looking for people to... Yeah, one example is the PC era, the politically correct era that we're in, right? People get fucking ping pong tables, coffee machines, quiet spaces for people to fucking reset. Like, that is just bullshit, right? That stuff is not... It's not the stuff you need to focus on as a leader, right? That stuff doesn't actually get results for the company. It just makes people soft. It just makes people... It's you conforming to the masses. It's you conforming to what people are saying. So remember what I'm saying about communication. People will say, oh, get me the coffee machine. Oh, get us ping pong tables. But that's not what drives results. That's not what they're really looking for. Right? You have to get underneath the layer and find out what people really want, what the real problem is, and address that. Address the gap and be a fucking leader. Forget about what people are saying and attacking what they really, really want. So your job, beyond that, right? Beyond attacking the gaps, what is the technical thing that you should be doing as a leader? It's setting the standard and enforcing them. Okay? So your job as a leader, it's not to be liked, it's not to conform, it's not to do half the shit that people tell you online. It's like you Google, you chat GPT, how to be a good leader. It's like things like be empathetic, show love. Like, while that stuff can work, while that stuff is all good, that's not what gets results as a leader. And one big lesson about leadership that I've learned is it's not about being like your people. You don't actually... One misconception that people have is, oh, if I'm a part of the team, if I go get the beers, if I go spend time with them, if I be like them, then they will like me, then they'll listen to me. But it's actually the opposite. People need to respect you as the leader, right? So you don't need to go to the barbecues and have the parties and do all the things that you think you should, right? Logically, you think, if I can be their friend, then they'll like me and then they'll listen to me. It's actually the opposite. You need to be up here, right? And your team needs to recognize you as the leader. They need to respect you. And that's what will make them listen to you and ultimately drive the organization, right? You need to set the standard. You need to enforce them. You need to have a voice where they will say, okay, yes, I will do as you say. And one thing that my mentor tells me, it's leadership is getting other people to do what you want them to do. What you want them to do when you want. It's not about when they want to do and what they want to do. It's about what you want them to do when you want them to do it. Right? What you want and when you want. That's leadership. If you can get them to do that, that's when you know you're a good leader. So that's it. Leadership is the most important thing. Okay, number 3, keep your eyes on the numbers. Business is so simple, right? It's literally just income and expenses, right? Everything else in between, that can be worked out. But if you don't understand how you make your money and what bleeds your money, then your business is going to be fucked, right? So the numbers actually forms the foundation of everything else. The numbers tell the truth, and everything else is noise. So I like to keep things simple. You have 2 levers in a business. You've got to understand your income drivers and your expense anchors, right? When you can clarify these 2, then you can go, okay, what can I do to optimize my income drivers, and what can I do to minimize my expense anchors, right? How can we drop this weight, and how can we increase our fucking our flying, right? How can we soar, and how can we drop the weight? That's how I like to think about it. Income drivers are like what makes you fly, what makes you drivers, and anchors, right? It's weight. It's weight to the business. It's necessary, right? You need to spend money in a business to make it function, aka staff, rent, supplies, equipment, software, subscriptions, all these things you need. But you got to think about the more expense you have, the more anchorage you have. And obviously, the more drivers you have, the more expenses you can accumulate. But, obviously, the less weight you have, the more drivers. Fuck, you know what I mean. So that's how I like to look at business. It's just numbers. Yeah, and you have two key levers. And if you just focus on these two key levers, you're fine. Right? Everything else is actually just bullshit. Everything else you can work through. Everything else is just people problems, systems problems, process problems. But if you can focus on what makes the money and what kills your money, what sucks your money, then your business will be fine. Because what kills a business? What kills a business? When you have no money. So make sure you have the money and everything's fine. Right, next thing, personal problems always become business problems. What I mean here is, let's say you're going through a divorce, or maybe you have poor health habits, maybe you're fat as fuck. Who knows? Whatever you're going through in your own personal life, that always comes through into the business. People like Andy Elliott talk about it all the time, so whether you know him or not, he's controversial, known for the do you have a six-pack, right? Take off your shirt, do you have a six-pack? And I believe in this because what I mentioned before, culture stems from the top. Flows from the top down. Alright, so if you're a fat fuck and you don't care about your health and you don't care about XYZ, then chances are in your business and the people in your business, they're going to adopt this mindset, this energy, and maybe even these habits. Okay, so personal problems always become business problems. So anytime you have problems in your business, chances are it's happening in your personal life. So I know, for example, in my case, every time I drop the ball with the things that I should be doing in my personal life, I see it in my business. I see that energy it just reflects. It just reflects in my business, and every time I fix those problems in my personal life, whether it's my own work ethic, whether it's my sleep, whether it's my eating habits, whether it's my just doing what I need to be doing. When I fix myself, it just tends to reflect in the business too. And it's just funny how the world works, right? Like, it's funny how everything around you is actually a mirror of your own internal world. Your external is a mirror of your internal world. So the lesson here is to be brutally honest with your own weakness. Right? Fix the leader, fix the business. So be candid with yourself. See what's wrong with you. See what you do well, what you don't do so well, and you'll probably see that in your business as well. Right. Execution beats ideas. So when I first got into business, when we launched, when we made our first acquisition, I like to have a lot of talking and feedback with my team. I thought this was going to be beneficial for us, but it was actually a lot of time wasted. Because everyone has ideas. Not every idea is worth acting upon. Right? Everyone has ideas. It's all about action. Like, what can you actually do to improve the business today, improve the business next week, right? Because everyone can talk. And I've been in the corporate world. I've been running my own business. In the corporate world, it's even worse, right? People have meetings for the sake of meetings, for the sake of ticking a box, for the sake of appeasing HR, for the sake of appeasing management. You just have these meetings to go through a document and, okay, that's it. But no action ever stems from it. So one pivot I had to make as a leader was, if we are to have a meeting, then we need to come out with action items. We have to come out with action items, otherwise it was just a waste of fucking time. Otherwise we could have just done this via text or a phone call, right? So, and you'll hear this with a lot of executives, try to eliminate as many meetings as possible. Try to eliminate these times where you just sit and talk, right? Sitting and talking is necessary sometimes. Maybe people like Brad Jacobs talk about it, but hey, what's important that comes out of it is action. And here's one saying that you can write down. Good is the enemy of great, right? Good is the enemy of great, but perfection is the enemy of progress. You can write that down. And what does that mean? It means good enough is shit, right? So always strive to be great. But if you procrastinate too much, if you try to perfect it too much, then that will detriment your progress, right? So you got to balance quality with progress. That's what that means. And how you can kind of measure it is good enough, improve it a little bit, launch it, go do it, and just keep reiterating, right? Rather than thinking, and I think school teaches you this. Like the reason why people do this is because of school, right? Because you're kind of taught to work, do all this stuff, hand in an assessment, and you get graded, and you can relax, right? You get trained into this pattern of thought. But life is not like that. Life is not work on a project, you hand it in, it gets graded, like it's fine, you can chill out. Life is actually, it just keeps fucking going. Like it doesn't just stop because you hand in a project, right? And business is very much like this. It's not, you do a marketing campaign, or you do a project, and then you hand it to the market, you launch it to the market, and you get graded, and that's it. It's actually, you got to build something, you launch it, you take it out to market, and then you have to get feedback and reiterate, and then you get feedback and you reiterate, and you keep launching, reiterate, launch, reiterate. That's the cycle of business. That's the cycle of life, really. And yeah, I think that's why people get into this idea of build, perfect, hand it in, launch it, and then fuck, I didn't get any sales, and then that's it, they quit. Right, so you actually have to get into a habit of just executing. Launch it to market, make your team do it, do the thing, right? Learn by failing. It's always faster than over-planning. And done is better than perfect. Systems. Very, very important. And actually the last point is actually going to be very, very important. More important than this. Systems, everyone talks about systems, very kind of geeky, but and you can actually get a manager to do all this shit, right? Like I don't necessarily do all the systems in my business. I actually leave that to the people who know the business better than I do, right? The people who actually work in the business, who understand the nitty-gritty, the intricacies of the business, I tell them, you fucking map it out. You map it out, let me go over it and approve it and understand what we're doing, and actually have a say in what the direction of our company. But when it comes to me establishing the system, leave that to the people. And I've noticed you can have really good people who know exactly what they're doing, but if they're just the one-off and they just do shit themselves, they're a fucking lone gunner. And that's actually very dangerous to the business, because what happens when they leave, right? Like, and what if you want that system across the whole fucking board? You don't get that. Like, if they're just a lone gunner doing their own thing, but they're earning you a lot of money, your business actually becomes reliant on them. And that's very dangerous. But if you have a system where people can achieve 60% of what this lone gunner can do, that's better, right? Like, this lone gunner can go and you still know that everyone is performing to a certain standard. And I think that's the lesson that I learned. When you have a system in place, you have standards. So going back to my point about leadership, how do you set the standards? You set systems. So therefore, you're not relying on any one person. You rely on a system of work, a process that everyone is following. So the goal with the system is to have a machine that just runs without you. So when you're buying companies, Let's say you're looking at a lot of traditional businesses up to 3 million, I'd say. A lot of them don't have that machine that is like well oiled and runs without the owner. So the first thing that you should be doing when you acquire one of these businesses is to, okay, let's focus on what's working, and then let's attack the gaps and put it all together into a cohesive little machine. So your job is not necessarily to map out this machine. Your job is to direct people to do it. Alright, so in my case, with the practice managers at my clinics, I tell them, you need to... You've been wanting to do this for fucking 10 years, or however long you've been at this business, right? It's, back to the leadership thing. Usually the existing owner, doesn't do all this because they're fucking lazy, or they like good enough, right? The business is good enough, fuck it, don't worry about it. And then, therefore, the staff don't do it. But, the first things that I do when I come in, I say, hey, we're going to be better. We're going to be better, and this is actually what inspires the staff. And when I tell the practice manager or whoever, whatever business you're looking at, whoever's going to be responsible for building these systems, they're actually going to get excited. They're going to say, wow, I've been wanting to do this for fucking ages. And, previous dickhead owner didn't want to do it, but I'm so glad you came in. Now I can do all these things. So when you're buying profitable, established cash flowing businesses, they kind of already have something in place, but it's just not optimized. And usually the staff don't have the freedom to do it. But one tip that I'll give you, as a new owner, you can come in and you can inspire the team to do all these things. So they actually build this machine where you don't need to fucking deal with it. Now, last point, focus on the few, not the many. I see so many entrepreneurs out there who just fucking think about all this bullshit. You can think about all these things that you need to do, and especially startups, right? Especially why starting a business, I'm against people starting businesses in 2025. There are so many easier options out there. Starting a business is actually very hard. It's never been easier to start a business, but that's what makes it so hard, because it's so competitive. There's so many ideas out there, and there's so many things to do when you start a business, because it's very competitive, right? The marketing landscape, you can focus on one platform, but then there's going to be a startup guy that's fucking across all the platforms. And then therefore, you start to go through this spiral of, fuck, I've got so many things to do, and you get burnt out. So what I like to say is focus on the few, not the many. So when it comes to my model, deal making, right? You as a founder, you kind of have the same problem as any startup founder, where you can be doing everything, but because we're focused on businesses that are already running, right? You don't need to do everything. So you can actually clarify, what are you good at? What are the things that you're good at? What are the things that you're not so good at? And what are the things that your staff are really good at? So now you start thinking how to delegate, right? How to use the systems, and you consider all the other points that I raised, right? About action over ideas, your personal problems. Like, think about what you're really good at, what you're not so good at. The things that you're not so good at, give it to someone else. Inspire other people to have that responsibility. And therefore, when you can focus on the strengths, when you can focus on what works, right? On the levers of a business. Remember, what are the levers? Quick quiz. What are the two levers, right? Income and expenses. When you can just focus on the few of the business, not the many of the business, right? Like, marketing, HR, fucking this and that. You can just focus on the few things that you're good at. Then you can start to make progress, because then you're dialed in, right? I know this, our generation, we like to say locked in, right? This is what locking in means. Focusing on the few, not the many. So when you get, when there's all this shit to do, right? You have all these tasks and opportunities. Don't chase all the tasks and opportunities. Focus on what moves the needle and what you're best at. Make sure you delegate everything else. And as the CEO, as the founder, you should be driving the organization. You should be finding money, finding deals. That's what I like to preach, right? As the founder, you should be finding money and finding deals. And then from there, everyone else should have their lane. And you should respect that. You should respect that everyone has a clear function and role, and that's what makes management easy. When people don't understand what the fuck they're doing and they start dabbling into other areas, that's where you have problems. Right? But when people understand exactly what they're doing and how they fit into the whole picture, that's when you have cohesion. That's when you have a well-oiled machine. And that's what makes managing easy. So, those are my 7 lessons, and I realize now that I am actually blocking all this shit. So let me move my... Does that work? Oh, fucking look at me. Look at me go. These are my 7 lessons. Make sure you have written all these down, because these are the things that helped me just change my whole fucking management approach, and especially coming into business at a young age and leading people that are twice my age, right? I'm the same age as a lot of these people's kids, right? So when they see me, when they talk to me, they've kind of got that in the back of their head. They're like, this guy is the same age as my son, as my daughter. And they think about, oh, my son's not working, doing all this shit. Like, this kid, like, you know, they think about me like, fucking, do I trust this person? Do I want to listen to this person? Do I want to work under this person? And these are the lessons that I've learned that kind of helped me put myself in a position where people respect me as a leader, right? So even if I am a little bit brash sometimes, even if my demeanor is not so mature, people still respect me because I'm learning. They see that I'm putting in the work, right? So these are 7 things that I learned very early on. I learned the hard way, right? Not everything was sunshine and rainbows. I had to learn these things the hard way. So this is a lot of value for you. And I think the key thing with these lessons is read between the lines. You know, maybe you're not listening to everything so literally. Maybe some things don't necessarily apply to you. I don't know. I don't fucking know sometimes. I'm just sharing what has worked for me. These are the lessons that helped me become a better leader. And I think now I am just rambling. So, that's it. These are the 7 things that I learnt. Buying a company at the age of 25, launching a healthcare company, leading people twice my age, across my board of directors through to my wider company. Hope this helps you. And as always, if you want to get more detailed structure, more detailed learning about how to actually buy companies, then make sure you join my private community. See you in there, eh? And see you on the next video.